for us with Presley, kind of having that first year of her life full of first words and first steps and things like that, the things that I realize I would have missed out on if we were touring and on a regular road schedule. I didn't have to miss a thing, so I'm really grateful for that.
Here, and of course, you and Taylor just announced that you've got a new baby coming later this year.
We do, yeah. We're gonna have another little one in July, so they'll be 21 months apart. We're gonna have our hands full, but we're really looking forward to that.
I like it. 2 under 2.
That's right.
There's so much to talk about with you because we haven't seen you in a year. We'll find out more about what you're doing. Justin Moore leading off the week's top 30. We didn't have much. My co-host this week is Brett Young. As we mentioned a bit ago, your current top 5 is Lady. And want to talk about it here because you did such a masterful job of weaving in the two ladies in your life.
Thank you. This is a special one for me. I always knew when I had kiddos that I was going to want to write songs for them, but I had this idea and even the title for so long, and I brought it up in so many writers' rooms while we were pregnant, where I didn't feel like the right song was coming out of it, and I cut it off really quickly. I wanted to make sure it felt right, and I'm so happy that I did that, because when I finally brought it up with John Knight and Ross Copperman, who are both girl dads as well, the ideas that started coming up about how to twist it, and like you said, not just speak to my yet to be born daughter, but also speak about my wife. It wasn't lost on us. It wasn't an accident that we were going to get double brownie points on this one. So I'm eagerly awaiting Presley being old enough to really understand, and then I'll get that second set of brownie points. But when we first wrote this one and I sent it to Taylor,
my co-host Brett Young, his current top 5, that's Lady. Up next in the countdown is the latest from Dan and Shay, Brett. And when the guys were in here as my co-hosts, they were telling us about hanging out with you at a festival.
I actually remember before this song was written, we were hanging out there. I was hanging on his bus, and he was like, "Yeah, man, I have this idea." He's like, "I want to write a song called Lady, about my little girl." And that was kind of the last I heard of it. He was like, "We should, let's write that song." And well, I didn't write that song with him, but I could have at one point. Should have probably written it with him. But that was, I didn't see him for a little while, and I remember seeing that song Lady, and I was like, "Oh, he wrote it, and it's great," and super proud of him for that one.
Shay was one of those guys that wasn't quite excited enough about the idea. No, he's a blast. Shay's one of my favorites, and I love that he remembers that.
Yeah, and the higher it goes up on the chart, the more he regrets it, I think, too.
Yeah, but I think on the other hand, they're clearly doing just fine, aren't they?
Absolutely. Well, here's the current song. Brantley Gilbert at number 28 with Hard Days. We're counting down the hits this week with Brett Young. Last spring, you played the Grand Ole Opry, and in those early days of the pandemic, no audience, just the artists on stage. And you were there with Chris Young and Chris Jansen, and Chris was here as our co-host shortly after that, and he talked about you.
I didn't know Brett at all, and he didn't know me. I knew Chris, of course, because we just finished that big tour this past season together, and I love him, and he's a great friend of mine. But I will say that I just took such a liking to Brett Young, and I believe the feeling was mutual, and what a great guy he seemed to be, and I enjoyed his singing and playing and his songs. You know what, he sounds, I'll tell you what I like most about him. He sounds exactly like he sounds on the radio. And so there's something to be said for that, and that's true talent.
Oh, what a sweetheart. That was such a fun show. I mean, we were talking back to the days when they couldn't put a single body in there as an audience member, but we had a blast, the three of us, and we definitely hit it off to the point where he was talking to me about where they go stay at the beach and trying to get me to run a place down there and come visit. So we had a ball, and I could say the same thing about him. He sounds just like he sounds on the record, and so does Chris Young. We had a ball that day, and a lot of talent on stage, and just good dudes.
Had to be kind of eerie in that opera with no audience, though, I would think.
Yeah, it was strange. It was at that point in all of this where you were just excited at the opportunity to perform. So the answer was an obvious, resounding yes. And it's still always such an honor to be on that stage. But when you're trying to pretend like there are people in an empty room, it definitely puts a different spin.
Chris Young and Kane Brown up 1 to number 26, Famous Friends. Brett Young along as my co-host this week. Up next is somebody that I know you want to talk about because she's a friend. That's Carly Pierce.
Carly's awesome. We've known each other for a really long time. When I was a new songwriter in town, and we were playing all the singer-songwriter rooms together, and man, I've just been such a big fan. She came out on tour with me, my Caliville tour, kind of my first headlining tour. Came an even bigger fan of her on that, and just recently she did something really cool that I was very honored and flattered that she offered this. But she sent me her new record early, and I got to hear these songs, and man, she just keeps getting better. And she talk about somebody that knows how to tap into their emotions with their music. She's just a
Charlie Pierce up 1 to number 25. That's Next Girl. Brett Young's my co-host this week. We now come to another friend of yours, Jason Aldean. He was in here not long ago and said that the two of you guys have been hanging out lately.
That's one of the cool things that's kind of come out of this year is that I've actually gotten to be pretty good friends with him. I actually just went and played golf with him a couple weeks ago. We went and played, and we just kind of seen each other a lot lately. His wife Taylor and my wife are friends, and so we kind of just are in the same circle, and so we've got a chance to hang out a lot lately, and we've hit it off, man, and I've gotten a chance to get to know him a lot better this year since we've had more time at home and things like that. So we're starting to become pretty good friends.
We did play golf together, and I think we had one of those days where we weren't trying to decide who won. We were just trying to decide who played worse. but we had a blast, and he's always so fun to hang out with. And like you said, they got kiddos, and our wives are close, and so that's absolutely true. This year has made us some pretty good friends, and that's been a cool deal.
So, as you've gotten to know Jason Aldean really well and as a friend, what is it you've learned about him that maybe you didn't know when he was just the Jason Aldean, the country star? And what is it, maybe a little insight just into him?
One of the most impressive things that I've kind of picked up about Jason is, the reason he's known as the artist that he is because he's larger than life on stage. And so before you get to know him, you would probably make some assumptions about how that would translate into his personal life.
Right.
And he is just the most calm, soft-spoken, humble dude. If you didn't know about his career, you would never have any idea, and he's not going to be the one to tell you about it or brag on himself either. Jason just really has impressed me with his humility, and I just think it's a rare thing to find in a talent that big.
Hard thing to get your head wrapped around. Jason Aldean is a quiet guy. Miranda Lambert at number 23 with Settling Down. Brett Young's my co-host this week. We were talking about your daughter Presley earlier. Had her first birthday last October. Did you guys celebrate in that southern tradition of smash cake?
We did. We had a small gathering. I call it a COVID-friendly gathering, and we did smash cake, and it's just so bizarre. We laugh at Presley all the time because her personality inside the house and around strangers is polar opposites, and so getting her to keep her hands out of her food when she's at home is impossible. But the second we hand her a cake and say, go to town, she acts shy and does it. So it took us a while, but we finally got the photo op, which is, the goal the whole time. And we had a blast with friends. And I think maybe as she gets older, hopefully she'll learn to really get into that cake a little bit better.
So what is her personality? Just a year and a half old.
It's really funny. She's really coming into her own and figuring out who she is. And so you start to, as they get to this age, you see a little bit more of a glimpse into their actual personality and not just reactions to situations. She's just a crack up. She loves to dance. She loves music. She loves to sing. Anything that she gets excited about doing, everybody else in the room has to do it with her. And so she's not even going to go put her shoes on unless she goes, Mom, Dad, come on, you're gonna put your shoes on too. So she's got this little kind of like shepherd quality to her. She's the leader of the pack, but most of all, she's just such a sweetheart. She's got Daddy wrapped around her little finger already for sure.
Blake Shelton is up 3 to number 21 with Minimum Wage. Brett Young's my co-host this week, and we were just talking about your year-and-a-half-year-old daughter Presley. But of course, you and your wife Taylor just announced you're expecting a second child this summer. That is certainly going to change dynamics around your house.
Yeah, aside from how much more difficult the second baby is. The second biggest piece of advice that we've been getting is whatever you think you've learned from the first one, just stop it. You know nothing. The second one won't be anything like that. Neither will the experiences you have with them. So just act like you're starting from scratch, because that's how it's going to feel.
There's some kind of, I don't know what to call it, a karma or something about all you guys that spend most of your time in clubs and concerts to have girls.
It absolutely is. I've joked for a long time with my wife, even before we knew we were pregnant with our first. I said, you know what? I think I've said out loud too many times how much I would like to have a little boy. I think I'm probably going to end up being a girl dad, and I think God heard me and he paid me. And you know what? I would not trade it for the world. It's the sweetest experience ever.
Bentley up a couple to number 20 with Gone. Brett Young in the co-host chair this week. I want to talk about a guy that I imagine you're seeing out on the golf course a little bit, because you were out on the road with Lady A few years ago. Charles Kelly was in here, of course, and wanted to talk a little bit about you.
Brett and I have become really close from that tour, of course, and I was lucky enough. I would always, hound him on the road about writing songs. Anytime I saw a songwriter, I said, "What are y'all doing? Y'all writing a song? Do y'all need an extra voice in there?" And so I would kind of weasel my way into some of these writing appointments. And but I'm so glad one of the first songs we wrote together was Here Tonight, and ended up being a big song for him. And I love him. He and I have gotten to play a lot of golf together too. Just a great guy.
That's so nice of him to follow up golf with great guy and not mention my golf game. Because if he really was being honest and dug into it, he would probably mention that the first time we played together, he thought I was overselling how bad I was, and then he saw me take one swing, and his response to my one swing was, "Oh, wait, so you're really just here for moral support then?" So thanks.
Oh, wait.
Thanks.
That's a lot of confidence building. A nice thing to say.
He knows that's why he doesn't mention my actual golf game, just the 4 hours we get to spend together on the golf course, and I appreciate that about Charles.
To use his word, he was weaseling in on writing sessions. Did he weasel into writing that number one with you?
He did, but we would have never thought about it that way because he's so charming. Me and the other two writers were just excited that Charles wanted to write with us because we're such a big fan. And I got to give him credit. He didn't just ask to come into that write. He came with that idea. So that song doesn't happen if Charles doesn't weasel his way into that room. And so I'm grateful for his self-confidence.
Tim McGraw and Tyler Hubbard once again at number 18, Undivided. Brett Young is my co-host this week, and you mentioned you want to talk about Tim and Tyler and that song.
Well, what a great song. It was so fun to watch Tyler, who's another guy that I've gotten really close to in this last year. Our wives are also really close, and I watched how much he immersed himself in songwriting. I know he already always did, but it became something that he fell even more in love with, and so it was really cool. You've probably heard me talk about this too many times about how Tim McGraw and Don't Take the Girl was the reason that I got into country music. And then, last year or 2 years ago in Dublin, I finally got to meet Tim, and they say don't meet your heroes, but in this case they were wrong. He lived more than up to any hero expectation I might have had. And so to watch Tyler dive into this songwriting obsession and then write this one and get Tim to be on it and have it be such an impactful song was really cool, and made me really proud of Tyler and the hard work that he's been putting into the songwriting side of things, because he's just a monster when it comes to writing songs.
So Tim, you saw Tim in Ireland. I think that's great. You were on the C2C tour?
Yeah, we were out there, and it just worked out so that Tim and Faith were doing a bunch of those shows together, and I got the opening slot on a few of them. And he was so cool. He just knew, he had heard that I was a huge fan, and so he didn't make me go knocking on his door. He sent somebody to grab me, and because he knew that I'd be excited to say hello. And he didn't rush things. He gave me 15-20 minutes of just undivided attention, no pun intended there. And we got to grab a picture together, and man, he's just really impressive, and I was so pleased to get to meet him.
Well, Tom Hunt again at number 17. Breaking Up Was Easy in the 90s. Brett Young's my co-host this week, and next up on the countdown is another one of your buddies. What can you tell me about Jordan Davis?
Jordan Davis has one of the coolest, most identifiable voices. When I hear a voice like Jordan's, it's rare, and it's so identifiable that it makes the lyrics jump out at you. And I find myself learning the words to Jordan Davis songs after a second listen, which I think is invaluable in this business is to be that relatable and also that identifiable all at the same time with your voice and your music. And so I would say the first thing that I think about when I think about Jordan Davis is what a huge fan I am of him and his music.
And of course, another girl dad.
Yeah, I mean, man, you said it earlier. It seems like there's something in the water in country music, because it seems like we're making about 85% little girls in this business right now.
Guy we're talking about is Teen Hell of a View. Brett Young's my co-host this week. Current top 5 is Lady. This is the first song for what is going to be your third album. And with all the time you've been spending at home, have you found it to be a creative time or the opposite?
Yeah. Absolutely. You know, I kind of get the itch when I'm stuck in the house too long, and so one of the things we made sure we did once it was safe and we could get in the studio again was go finish this record. I knew I was going to need the rest of the record to follow up Lady, being that was the first single, and we got after it. So aside from like you were saying, we used our time really wisely at home. Baby number 2's on the way, but the rest of my time was spent making album number 2, and I'm really proud of this one. There's a lot of what I would call Brett Young songs that you would expect from Brett Young, but there's also some twists and turns and a little more tempo and a few different sounds that maybe didn't happen on album 1 and 2. And so I challenged myself, and I got with a handful of writers that I hadn't written with before, and I think there's a little bit for everybody on this one. I'm really proud of it.
Well, I'm anxious to hear the music of the next, 6, 8, 12 months that have come from this period of time. I think it's going to be really, really fascinating to hear where you guys as songwriters kind of take things.
Yeah, it's going to be the year of new music and birth announcements, I think.
12, How They Remember You. We're counting down the hits this week with Brett Young, and up next is somebody who I think you've been seeing a lot of lately, and that's Darius Rucker.
Yeah, I feel like every time we bring somebody up, the story revolves around golf. So as you can see, that's one other thing I've been doing quite a bit of in the last year. But man, Darius is another really good golfer and really competitive guy, and we've gotten to spend a lot of time playing together. But he cracks me up because he will not suffer bad weather. So as soon as a lot of rain's coming through, or we're going to get a cold front or something, he's just back to South Carolina. We don't see him for 2 weeks. So I don't blame him one bit, but he might be out on our course 5 days in a row and then gone for 2 weeks, depending on what kind of weather we got coming through Nashville.
Well, but guaranteed he's on a course in South Carolina when he's not on a course in Nashville.
Oh yeah, he's not going to miss golf. He'll find warm weather somewhere.
Now, when you've played with Darius, have you played with his son?
I haven't, but his son is one of the hardest workers. I mean, I think probably the reason we haven't played together is because he's always on the range practicing. I mean, he's really taken this seriously. And, another thing is I need one more person that can beat me at golf. I'm not trying to add to that list. I've watched him swing. He would whoop me if we let him come out there. So only one Rucker beating me at a time.
Oh, I understand. That's good. And her very first top 10, somebody like that. Brett Young's my Countdown co-host this week. I think in the past we've talked about you being a lifelong LA Dodgers fan, so you had to be just thrilled when they won the World Series again.
That was so much fun, but I tell you what, if I got to hear one more person talk about a short season, seriously, come on. This was a great year for the Dodgers. It was a great. My Lakers got one too. We're dealing with the short season thing there as well. But it felt good, man. I've gotten to know a lot of the guys on that Dodgers team, and what a great group of guys. What a talented young group of guys. I think they're even going to be better this year, which is scary. So it was fun to bring that trophy back to LA.
So, and I know with the COVID and all the restrictions, but were you able to get to any of those World Series games?
I wasn't, unfortunately. I think it happened for me, at least in my family, early enough in this whole kind of pandemic where we were, even if that was offered to us, we probably would have played it safe on that one. But I didn't miss a game though. I bleed blue for sure.
Yeah, well, opening day is just around the corner, which is great news for all of us, and I think they're going to allow some folks back in the stands this year. So I mean, that's the best news about what's coming this season, starting over. Brett Young is my Countdown co-host this week, and through the show, we've talked about you playing golf with Charles Kelly from Lady A and Darius Rucker and Jake Owen and a bunch of others. So rank the country artist golfers for me.
Oh my goodness. Well, there's too many to rank.
Yeah.
Like, I would leave people out.
All right, who's the best? Who's the best?
I think Charles is going to get mad at me, but I think Jake Owen has a lower handicap. I know they play a bunch together, so I don't know who actually normally wins when they play together. I think Darius is right there. If not, I think he's maybe a few strokes behind them. We had a blast. Chris Lane put together a big golf trip for a bunch of artists, and we went down there, and I got to play with Shea Mooney quite a bit. He can hit some really beautiful shots.
Did you go? You went to Pinehurst?
I did. I did.
Man, that sounded like a great trip. Everybody that's been in here that was on that, Chris was telling us about it, and then Charles. I mean, I told Chris, here's my phone number. Let me know next time you do that.
Well, we got to do it again because it was a blast, and also when you're touring with like two other acts, and so the rest of country music you're just not seeing because they're out touring in other cities, and so the opportunity to have everybody together for a whole weekend was actually really, really fun. I think it was good for all of us, and so man, there's a lot of good golfers in country music, and I'm not one of them. But I mean, if I was putting together my dream team, I'd probably go out and play with Darius, Jake, and Charles, and see if I can help with my handicap every once in a while when I get some strokes.
Oh, you gotta get strokes when you play with those guys. And my co-host Brett Young at number 5 with Lady. I want to talk about the video for this song that features your wife Taylor and your daughter Presley, of course. I love the way this is shot with it you singing in kind of the full screen normal quality. But then when you cut to the shots with Taylor and Presley, it's kind of like an old-time 8mm movie. You know what I mean? Yeah, that was kind of my idea for the video, was that I wanted it to feel like old home movies, and because of COVID, we had just. I got back from the UK, quarantined on my bus for 2 weeks because I had been on all these flights and I didn't know, what I could have possibly brought home. And then the second I was done with the quarantine, we got on my bus and went to California for the whole month of April. And we get out there and we decide we've got to come with a new single. We've got Lady all produced and ready. So with that decision to put Lady out, we needed a music video, but we're not going to bring a whole crew of people in to shoot a music video, and I'm certainly not going to go hire actors, and we just, there was so much we didn't know. And so my good friend Seth Coopersmith, who he did the music video for Mercy, he also did the music video for Catch. He was up with his parents in Oregon, which is, I think, 17 hours on the road to get from Oregon to Palm Springs, Palm Desert, where we were. And I said, not only do I need you to drive instead of fly, I need you to shoot this video all by yourself because I don't want any more people in and around the family. So he didn't have a camera operator. It was single camera and a drone, and he shot that whole thing all by himself. And not only that, was able to take my idea for home movies and absolutely exceed my expectations of kind of what I had drawn up in my head. So it turned into like maybe one of the most special music videos I'll ever do, because my daughter and my wife and our family, we're going to have that forever. Yeah, that is just such a neat thing to have, and something you guys can all watch together through the years as she gets older. That really is pretty cool. And we're talking about the video. Parmalee and Blanco Brown at number 2, Just the Way. Of course, now we come to the number 1 song in the USA. It's the very first chart topper for this artist. So, as is our tradition, we have him on the line. Nico Moon, congratulations on that number 1. Is there anything more exciting?
Thank you so much. No, there's not, man. I've never felt a feeling like this in my entire life. It's amazing. Well, along with us as my co-host this week is Brett Young, who knows that feeling.
My guy, how you doing, man? Congratulations.
Thanks, Brett. Yeah, good to meet you, man. Big fan.
Thank you, man. So am I. You have an incredible voice, and what a fun song, man. That's a fun one to get your first number 1 with. And I'm curious. There was no COVID when I got my first one, so I'm curious what a celebration for a number 1 record looked like for you.
Yeah, man, that's a good question. A lot of Postmates and a celebration cookie cake delivered by Postmates, and me and my wife just had a big throwdown here at the house, and we got on Zoom with our team and just celebrated with them like that.
That's great. That's great.
And it strikes me, was there a more perfect time for Good Time than what we've gone through in the last year?
Yeah, it's crazy how it all worked out. I wrote Good Time 3 years ago, so when none of this was even a glimmer of reality. So, but I'm glad that this song could be like a little, 3-minute and 30-second audible vacation that people can go on when they're just kind of feeling really stressed about everything. Because I know I've probably had enough stress to last me the rest of my life this past year. So it makes me really happy to know that, hopefully Good Time can ease that a little bit.
One of our other traditions here is when somebody has their very first number one, in addition to having them on and chatting about it, we let them introduce the number one song in the USA. So have at it. Tell us what number one is this week.
Hey, this is Nico Moon, and this is my number one song, Good Time.
We just trying to catch a good...
Nico Moon, his first number one, Good Time. And there they are, the top 30 country hits in the USA is compiled by Country Check. We've been counting them down with Brett Young. What else do you got planned for this year? I know it's all so up in the air, but what are you hoping for?
I think our best guess is that we will probably be able to get on the road a little bit starting in September. It feels like a safe time for everybody. So that's going to be kind of perfect timing for us to get the new album out, have this second baby, and it should give me 6 to 8 weeks after the baby's born to actually be home and help Taylor get settled into having 2 under 2.
And of course, it'll be great to see you back out on that concert trail at some point soon. And the current hit is Lady. Best of luck with that. And really appreciate your helping me count down the hits.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.